Hi, John Harbaugh here with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy. The importance of coaches in the lives of young athletes can never be underestimated, especially today. I hope you enjoy the valuable, practical insights in this interview with our expert coach. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Coach Reid, man, it's great to see you, and it's awesome to have you on. I really appreciate you joining us. It's going to be a fun conversation about coaching.
Man, I love it. Appreciate it, John. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's an honor, and you just having a chance to be together for 9 years, and the impact that you've had on our life, my family's life, the difference you made for us, how much I learned as a coach. Ingrid from Tammy, just watching you every day with players, with family, with people in the building. It was a great learning experience, but it was also just kind of a joy too. And I thank you for that and appreciate you.
Well, we had some great talks, history talks, man, huh? All those history books that we had a chance to read and share with each other.
A couple of Churchill guys, right? We both like our Churchill, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm reading another Churchill right now, so I can't get enough of that guy. So
yeah,
you kind of turned me on to him too. But no, it's great. And so we go back. I was thinking back, and walked into your office, shortly after you took the job, and you decided to keep me on, which I'm still grateful for. Thank you. Appreciate that. Right. But you had a card on the back of your, a 3x5 like this, on your bulletin board right behind you. And it said, don't judge. And I never really asked you about it, but I did see it. And I saw it every day for the next 9 years anytime I walk in your office. And I think I understood it because I watched how you operated with people. But I'm finally asking you, what did that mean?
Yeah, so don't put people in a box. You never know once you open the box for them what's going to pop out and their personality. So give them a chance. Give them a chance to dream a little bit and still work and at whatever they want to be. And so I've tried to do that. As opposed to coming in and going, listen, you're only going to be a special teams coach, right?
Right.
So I'm not here to judge that. What your dream is. Your dream was to be a head coach. So do what I can do the best to give you an opportunity to be a head coach, and don't box you in at all.
And you did that, and I think back to some of the players that you had over the years when I was there. You kind of went outside the box. You didn't let that bias or that stereotype ever kind of interfere. I mean, you look back to drafting Donovan, early on there, who had a different style of playing just a little bit, and drafted him high and playing him all those years. And then you had all kinds of different guys. Doug Peterson was a backup. Jeff Garcia was a starter for a while. Michael Vick later on was one of your quarterbacks, among others. You kind of always just took people the way you found them. And we're doing that a little bit with Lamar too now. Playing a different kind of game, and you with Patrick. I mean, quarterbacks that were different, that people necessarily didn't see maybe what you saw. Kind of going back to don't judge.
Yeah, well, I tell our coaches today that just you never know what a player is going to surprise you to be able to do. Get to know the person,
right?
And then, we as coaches we try to exploit the strengths of the player. And then we'll work on the things they're not good at and try to get them better at those things as we go. But let them shine, man. Let them do their thing. I remember down at the combine, they asked me about Lamar, and they said, "What position would you play him at?" And I go, well, I'd probably try him at quarterback since he's been like the best everywhere he's been. I'd probably give him a shot at that before I did anything. I mean, what's wrong with that thinking? So. But don't box people. We have a tendency to do that as humans. We kind of put people in these boxes and say, you can't do it. At the time when Donovan was coming out, black quarterbacks in the West Coast offense were really kind of non-existent. I mean, it wasn't happening at that time. Right. And I didn't understand why. I mean, why can't a smart guy with great athletic ability play in the West Coast offense? I mean, why can't he do that? And so, that's what that's the approach that I've tried to take throughout, like you do. I mean, it's the same thing. We're not afraid to open the package.
You think about it, sports and being out front, really kind of a society deal. It kind of lends itself to the bigger picture all the way back. I know you've grown up in Los Angeles, and we've talked about the neighborhoods and the schools and who you played with and those kind of things, which are just fascinating stories. I think all the history kind of makes us who we are in terms of our parents and what they believe and things like that. But sports is out front. So this idea of a black quarterback in the West Coast offense, or Lamar Jackson, who people say is a running back, not a quarterback, and being able to kind of shed those stereotypes. It's not. It's an idea that this is what that position looks like. The implications for society, for all the people, all the groups, all the places, all the spaces where assumptions are made about people that they can do this or can't do that, or this is what it's supposed to look like. Don't you think sports has a huge impact on changing the way people see the world, the way we see one another?
Yeah, if people really look at it close, especially in football, because it's such a violent combat sport, as you'd say. You see people in the military with this concept all the time, where they're in the foxhole together. We use that term. We're in the foxhole together. And at that point, all you're caring about is defeating the enemy and living. And so you don't care what color he is, what religion he is, you don't care. And then they could leave each other for 25 to 30 years, come back and hug each other and still love each other. Well, that's football. And that's what's so great about it. So you see these relationships that guys have that are from every different class of race, of religion, come together, jointly work together every day, spit and sweat and shower and meet and do all these things together, and then they become best friends, right. Which it would have never happened without this.
Right.
And that's really, I think that's really what our players want. When a guy takes a knee, what's he really saying? What's he saying? He's saying, listen, please look at what we have going in the National Football League. Please look at this, man. This is what it's all about. This is from people from all different backgrounds coming together, working jointly, and putting beautiful things of this beautiful product out there in these football games. And we just want, when we leave here, we want you all to understand that. And we would love to have that out in the regular world here. I mean, this is what we really want. And so I think it's a microcosm of life, but it's maybe the beautiful part of the microcosm of life.
That's the great thing. And it's funny because, boy, you're in the front lines here, and this media is everywhere, cameras are everywhere. Like you said, you talked about the knee and the national anthem, and not just that. There's so many other things that are in the spotlight. A lot of criticism, because it's under the microscope, and yet the National Football League and football itself and the relationships you're talking about, they hold up. They hold up, and not just hold up. They basically kind of forge a path, I think, for a greater society. Like you said, the ability to look past, the religion, the race, the background, where someone comes from, what education they got, where they went to school, all the little petty things that basically surround somebody that everybody sees without taking the time to get down deep and get to know somebody like you do in the foxhole, and learn to trust them because of their character and who they are. And the fact that the person has your back, becomes your friend, is there for you when things are difficult and through the challenges, and football kind of forces you, not just football, right, Andy? I mean, so many other things, team type oriented things, relationships, clubs, things like that. But, the ability, I think, as people watch the National Football League and they want to see the good and they want to see what's really going on, I mean, it makes a big difference, and they see someone like Lamar and the relationships he has with all his players, or Patrick and the relationship they have. And these are the iconic players now in the National Football League. I mean, that's what I'm proud to be a part of,
Sure. That's what drives us every day. That's why we get fired up to come in early in the morning and stay late at night and you're creeping on 60. I'm past 60. And so it's, but we love doing what we're doing because of that, I think. I mean, that and the ability to teach, I think, go hand in hand. And really, when you think about judging, when you're in this world, guys really aren't judging each other.
No.
That's not what they're doing. It's all in and let's go. I don't really care what you look like. I don't care, your beliefs. I just care that we score touchdowns and stop guys from scoring touchdowns. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And you cut down the chase and you end up respecting each other. I mean, it's a tremendous dynamic there.
it's interesting you just said end up respecting one another, because I think that you, like you say, as you get a little older and you get a few more years behind you, like we have, and you just start to think about the bigger picture sometimes. You are able to think a little deeper. Time kind of does that. And you kind of, you think about why you're doing something like that. So you have the conversation about where it all takes you. You look back, this is where I've come, and this is what's the meaning, what's the meaning in what we do. And yet, that when you start, or even when you start the day, your thought isn't that kind of an impact. It's not the fact that, boy, we're going to change the way the world thinks about one another.
Right.
We're going to try to, like I said, get somebody stopped. We're going to try to get this play executed. We're going to try to get this pump protection right. We're going to try to figure out a way to beat the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I mean,
That's right.
how can we do that? And you kind of come together for that common cause, and it becomes about the details, and you get united in that pursuit of perfection, that competition, And I know you've kind of been known as a detail coach just a little bit. That you had the 5-inch binder that you were so graciously gave me when we talked about being a head coach, with all the details in it, and you still are. I mean, when you watch your offense play, your defense, special teams, and all the precision that goes with it, that's kind of been a hallmark, I think. How important has that been in your career? Just your mindset toward the little things.
Yeah, so I think it's a part to the whole. I I've talked to different authors around. There's an author out there named Finder, and he's written some just great books. And I had a chance to sit on an island with him and listen to him. He explained to me how he's got these 4 novels in his mind at all times when he signs these different deals that he has to do with these companies. But he takes everything from a part to a whole. But he said there are other people, Michener, took the whole to the part. And so there's a way of looking at it. Yeah, we look at the big picture, but we understand that it starts with the part. I mean, it starts with the little things, right, the details. And then through hard work, it's a joint effort through hard work to join yourself as a team in training camp. You're not playing anybody, but you're joining yourself as a team in training camp. How much do I trust that guy next? How far will he go with me? How far am I willing to push myself? The trust within myself, and then the trust within the guy next to me. And then you get to the whole. You're gradually working to the whole, which is how do we, beat the Chiefs or the Ravens? How do we do that? I mean, so as long as you said it best, as long as it's a joint goal, there's a joint goal in mind. That's what our leaders try to present or should present, right? I mean, there should be these goals that are given to us as a country to try to reach, to maintain being great. Right now, as you know, this, and I've talked about this, there hasn't been a civilization that jointly has lasted as long as the United States has.
Right.
And we've always had these goals, certain things that we've got to reach to. Now, we've got different groups of people that have come into this country over the years. That's what it's been made up of. We had our Native Americans who started off, and then, people started moving in. How do we do this? The challenge to me is how do we all do this together and still make this the greatest place ever without having to have a war every couple of years to bring everybody together? How do you do that? And that's a great challenge. I mean, I think it's kind of that whole part's kind of fun to do, but you better start at the bottom, and you better do the small things of getting along with people, around you.
All right. So I'm going to come back to that because that's really awesome. That's kind of the whole, to the part. But I think you've always said, you said teaching a minute ago. My dad always says that coaches are teachers. I mean, that's what coaches are, teachers. You've always said that too. And teaching, kind of teaching 101, whole part whole, that methodology is kind of a long standing kind of methodology. And we definitely do apply that. So like when you think in terms of football, talking to, younger coaches, high school coaches starting out, and you decide, well, this is how I want to build this thing. You start with a vision, right? You start with the whole. You say, okay, I'm going to have a vision. These are my players. This is what I have. And this is what I believe in as a coach, whether it's, fundamentals, physicality, whatever. And I'm going to build around this whole. This is how I see building this offense or this defense or this special team. And then you got to delve into the parts, right? What are all the pieces? All the aspects, all the techniques, all the fundamentals, all the combinations that go together. And then as you do that, you're working back to the whole, which ends up being how we're going to play the game, how we're going to put these things together, all 3 phases together. So if you're going to talk to a young coach who's, high school coach, say, who's putting together a practice plan, or talking about, developing the training camp process to do this, how could you best describe that for that coach?
Yeah. So with the training camp, you kind of work, you work kind of backwards because they give you all these different things you've got to put together. But I would start with the parts, and I'd write down all the things I want to try to get accomplished fundamentally with my team. And then everything I want to, by every position and special, offense, defensive fundamentals, special teams fundamentals. And then I'd go and I'd say, what plays do I want my guys to have pretty well perfected by the time we leave here?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of your foundation. Now you're always going to add new plays here or there on offensive, defensive, special teams, but this is my bread and butter right here. And I make sure I came out of that. At the same time, recovery becomes an important thing. So you've got to incorporate, these are human beings you're dealing with and not machines. And so there has to be a build up and a bring down, build up, bring down, and you've got to have a feel on how you're going to allow your players to maximize it. I talk, Stonewall Jackson was a phenomenal general. What he did was he mastered almost like fartlek training with his guys. So he would run the guys to get to point A. You forget that they just didn't fly or drive to get these places. They had to go by foot, and he would take them, and he would run them, he would jog them, he would walk them, and he'd do different. One time he would walk them, jog them, running, and then he'd come back and he'd go run, walk, jog, and he could get from point A to point B faster than any general in the Civil War, and at the same time have his guys fight at maximum strength. And so that was a real art. Well, that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, we're trying to get these guys from point A to point B from the beginning of camp to the game, and then not only to that game, but how many ever games you're playing down the road where you're still strong in the playoffs. And how are you going to go about that? And that takes some thought process, and everybody does it different, but there's an art to that.
When we've heard about when you kind of grew up and your parents had amazing parents, in LA, and you kind of always been kind of a West Coast guy, Glendale Community College, BYU offensive line. You like to throw the ball around just a little bit, and teammates like Jim McMahon, and I think Brian Billick was a teammate of yours maybe, and Tom Holmoe.
Brian was just ahead of me. Yeah, just ahead of me. Okay. Yeah, 1 year ahead. Yeah.
And really cool history there with guys and stuff like that. But, and then the guys you kind of hung around with, when you were just growing up as a kid, kind of impact, and your parents and your mom, right? And
sure.
What difference does that make,
Yeah. Well, it's a foundation, right? It's the foundation that you get when you're a kid that helps you kind of work your way through, and trying to find the good and things, I think ends up being important. I mean, we can all find the negatives in people, but let's try finding out the good. And so I was taught that, try to look at the good first, and then we'll work on the other stuff. Let's get to the other stuff. And my dad was an artist and my mom was a doctor. I mean, you can't find two more opposite people. My dad walked around like a homeless person. I mean, with his clothes, and that's how he rolled, and he felt very comfortable with that, and he could talk to anybody. He didn't, his parents were immigrants from Scotland and caretakers and that type of thing. So he grew up around all different kinds of people and all different races. And so then my mom was a doctor, and she grew up different than my dad, but it lasted for a long time. I mean, they were married for a long time, and then my dad refused to move out of Los Angeles, out of that neighborhood we were in when things were kind of changing around, and he goes, no, I mean, my kids are going to know people, man. That's important. And so we stayed, and I'm glad he did, because I got to know all these different, I grew up around everybody. And so you find good, if you're taught to find good in people, and then you grow up around all the different races and religions, you go, it's pretty good education. without having to pay a dime.
That's
You
right.
just, it's experience. And I was very fortunate to have that. Very, very fortunate. And these are all close friends now, the guys I went to high school with. I mean, I've stayed in touch with all these guys and we have a blast. So it's, I have a blast following them and they have a blast following what I'm doing.
Yeah, I remember you'd have guys come out to training camp sometime, high school guys, childhood friends, guys you played sports with. You had Rick Hagan, Sensei Rick Hagan. I got to spend time with him because he taught me how to throw punches, in martial arts, and we did that for training camp every morning for a while. He's become a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Diversity of people that you had in your life, and it really does amaze me. You do have a huge kind of a group, a big circle that you've kept close with, and coaches too that you've had in your past. I mean, you had some pretty amazing coaches too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had amazing coaches that coach me. And then I've been lucky to have guys like you and, that I've been able to work with throughout my time. I mean, Mike Holmgren was the guy I came into the NFL with. And I was lucky to have him because I didn't think anybody did it better. And here I'm sitting here, how many ever years later down the road, and I'm still going, man, that guy, he was unbelievable how he handled everything,
Right.
So it's been very fortunate that way.
How about college? I mean, you kind of had a legendary college coach, I'd say, right?
I did. Lavelle Edwards was the best, man. I mean, just rock solid. So he could handle Brian Billick, which was a pretty good accomplishment.
I tell Brian that too.
Yeah. No, he knows. Brian was a real smart guy. Brian transferred from the Air Force Academy. That kind of tells you how he's wired upstairs there. I mean, he's a sharp guy, and BYU was lucky to have him there. He was a great tight end for BYU.
I remember Lavelle used to come to practice every now and then. You talked to him on the phone pretty regularly. What was he like as a coach? What made him great?
How many guys get there? My college coach called me from the time I left BYU and went to San Francisco State. He called me every week until he passed away. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I thought it was normal. And then the further you go in coaching, you're going, what a great example.
Yeah.
So I try to reach out to people and stay in touch. I mean, because I had a great example of that. My high school coaches kind of did. They were always checking on, and so that's kind of a unique thing. But I mean, Lavelle Edwards is a Hall of Fame college football coach, and so it was unique. Your dad was the same thing. I mean, your dad did the same thing. I mean, he was phenomenal. He talked to me when I was a scrub bucket. I was hanging around the coach's back pocket, and he talked to me like I was a full-time coach, and it made me feel like the man. So those guys they're unique. That generation was very, very unique that way.
Were you at San Francisco State with Vic Rowan?
I was, yes.
Vic
That's
Rowan,
another one.
He and my dad got real close when my dad was out at Stanford and became lifelong friends, until
Yes.
Vic passed. Now he's a piece of work, right? With the tennis shoes and
Oh, yeah. Well, your dad saved all the donuts for him, the leftover donuts he'd give them to him. And Coach Rowan, I think I worked for Lavelle Edwards and Coach Rowan. I think I worked, and then I went to Larry Quintero in Northern Arizona. I'm working for the dinosaurs of college football. These guys have been doing this forever. And they all had worked into being the president of the Coaches Association and the NC2A. And I was so fortunate. Vic Rowan, that was a laboratory of football. There were wall-to-wall playbooks from all over the country, every major college in the country, half the NFL teams, and you could just go in there and pull out all this information. And he was a great teacher of coaches, I thought.
It's crazy. I mean, I think about the coaches that you had and the way you run your team, and especially your offense. I mean, you've never been afraid to try a new play. If you see a play, I mean, I know you look for, believe me, I've seen him. I've seen him against us for the first time. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? And but you think about Lavelle Edwards and Vic Rowan and Larry and the coaches that you've had. That's how they were. I mean, you came up with some pretty revolutionary, crazy coaches. BYU was tossing it all over the yard before anybody was throwing the ball.
Yeah, you don't think of that either. I mean, until you're older, and then you look back at it and you go, man, was I lucky to be in that situation there? And yeah, BYU was, and it did. It said, it's who says that you can't do this?
Right.
It's that philosophy. It's, what do you mean? Who made that rule up?
Right.
I remember when I did my master's thesis, we were taught O-lineman, toes in, heels out. and I'm studying the tape, doing my master's thesis. I did it on fundamentals of offensive line play. I did it about pass protection, but I did it, I looked at everything. So, and I'm going, wait a minute. Nobody keeps their toes in and heels out. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so I'm not ever teaching that. As a line coach, I'm never teaching that.
Right.
Matter of fact, now everybody's got their feet out in kind of normal positions and where they toe out just a little bit and they roll. So, but who says that you have to do it this way? We have to stop at red lights or people die, right? I mean, that we know. But who says that you can't do these things that on a football field? I mean, who made that rule up? This game's always changing. So let's explore that. Let's figure it out ourselves and go, okay, well, that isn't going to work. That was a bold dream right there. But let's try it. Let's try it though.
You know, we say something around here. We say principles are written in stone, methods are not. You know, I mean, the way you do seem like I say, you guys sometimes, you know, show me the tablet where that's chiseled into. You know, until I see the tablet that's chiseled into, I'm not buying that one. You know, let's try it. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
or throw it out. If you know, we don't have to have it. You know, get rid.
That's
of it.
right.
It's not working.
I love
But
that.
you had some pretty. I mean, you had 11 coaches on that early Eagle staff and throughout that went on to be head coaches, and you've had so many even since. You know, now, and including those 11 in Kansas City, and you know, it's pretty. I think back to that staff, a bunch of young guys. You hired a bunch of young guys, except for Jim Johnson and Tommy Brazier. You know, those are the two crusty guys, and they weren't crusty; they were the greatest guys ever. But I mean, I credit those two guys for teaching me more football than I'll ever learn since. You know, but you know, what was that like having all of us in there? You know, and having us. You know, we all got along, but we all kind of got after it a little bit, and it was pretty crazy.
Well, everybody let their personality show, that's for sure. So
you always said to do that.
That's right. Yeah, let your personality show. And so you don't want a stagnant staff. You don't want people that just coy down to everything that you say. You want to talk and get better and keep open communication. It's no different than a marriage or a relationship of some sort. I mean, let's talk. Let's put it out there. And everybody has their own personality. I mean, you're a fireball. I'm not sure people know that, but unless they watch on the sound, but you were a fireball. So hey, that's okay. That's okay. That's the way you communicated and got your point across, and let's go. And so if you can check the ego at the door, right? The easing out of God deal, you know, that's what ego is. So yeah. So if you can just focus in on what is going to make the Ravens better, what's going to make the Chiefs better, then you can get rid of all the other garbage. And am I doing as a head coach what's making the Chiefs better? And if I come into a tough decision, I ask myself that question: does this make us better or worse? And then if it makes us worse, I don't really care. If I'm slamming myself or whoever, get rid of it. If it was my idea, get rid of it. You know, and so if we can just kind of keep that in mind as we go as coaches, I think it presents a little bit easier work environment, better world. And don't be afraid to admit when you goofed. You know, I mean, that's a lot of people are afraid to admit that they messed up somewhere.
That's an interesting thing, because I can remember in Philly, you know, you have different crazy situations come up, but you know, you always said that. You always said, you know, let your personality show. You told the players that. You'd say it before games, after games. That was always a big part of it. You'd always say the night before games, you know, let's go. I'll buy you a cheeseburger. You know, you always said that after your team talk on Saturday night, and we still have cheeseburgers in our night before.
Yeah, you gotta have cheeseburgers.
It's required, you know, and just the little things. But well, we were playing. I think it was Dallas. You know, the first opening game. Your first year. I think we were 5-11. And then we came back and win 11-5. I think in 2000. Second year. And the opening game was against the mighty Dallas Cowboys, who had won the division. They were a really formidable team. And you know, you're always looking for something. Yeah, you come into the office all the time, about every week. Got a fake? You know, you got a trick? What do you got? You got something up your sleeve here? You know, and I always felt bad if I didn't have one. You know, you hate to say, Coach, honestly, this time I don't think there's anything there, but pushing the envelope, always trying something. And they did. They ran their front out there a little quick on the kickoff return team, and so you said, well, let's try an onside kick. We had Akers who could kick the really good onside kick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I go, when? And you said, well, how about the first time we kick, So the opening kickoff, we do it, right?
Yeah.
And Damian
Yeah. No,
Douglas goes there and grabs it.
yeah. I remember that. I remember I gave you the like sting sign,
That's right. Yeah.
I was down at the left side and I looked down and in between you were with Ike Reese, I think, and Dave Tobe was more towards me than he was in your huddle there, but more towards me. And I gave this and Dave about pooped his pants right there. He went, and I'm going, oh, don't give it away. You were very cool. And, everything was cool. And oh my gosh, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
I remember boom, 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 right down the field. I think Deuce scored a touchdown. I think we just pounded them right down the field, and
Yeah.
that was almost the beginning. But the story that people don't know is we tried that later, like 4 or 5 or 6 years later, with Bill Parcells as the head coach, and they were all over it, and I don't know, that was probably me, coach, we can get them, and they took it back. They took it back for a touchdown. You
Yeah.
didn't flinch. You didn't flinch, and you never came back and said, "Hey, that was stupid. What were you thinking?" You didn't bat an eye about that.
Yeah. Well, listen, they're playing too, and they're good at what they do, and everything's not going to be perfect. And as you know, as a head coach, if you flinch in this thing, or if you're too high or too low, I mean, these guys they read through that, and so half the battle is keeping your mind right, to where you're aware that other people are watching, right? And you're responsible for 60 guys and the coaches there. And if you're whatever direction you decide to go, they're probably right there with you. Right. And so but the main thing is there are going to be things that happen. You take a chance, and that's part of this game. That's a human element of the game.
Right. I remember, we've laughed about this so many times before, but I think it was our first home game in 1999, and we were just getting to know each other, and we had two kickers. We had Norm Johnson and David Akers, were both our kickers. David was a young upcomer. Norm was a seasoned veteran. That we're going to get us through and teach David how to do it. So Norm was kicking field goals. Dave was kicking off. I think Dave was kicking the long field goals. And right at the end of the half, we're playing the Cardinals at home. In your first game as a head coach at home, in the vet, the notorious vet. I mean, they're fighting in the stands behind us and everything else and screaming everything out. And we get to march the ball down the field. We're going to kick a field goal to close out the half with the clock running, when you don't have a timeout. And I told you at the time, as God is my witness, Norm was standing there, and
he was right there.
He was right there for that he wasn't, But and the great thing, the funny thing is, I mean, that we sent him out there on fourth down, and they got lined up, boom, and it was like, that was impressive. And then you realize Doug Peterson was the holder. Doug's like, "Where's Norm?" You could just see it. Like, I think I might have seen him say, "Where's Norm?"
Yeah.
And Norm was actually now running on the field with the clock running down and just ran. And then Doug, because he's he's a smart guy, snaps it with a second left on the clock, and Norm runs in and kicks it, and it's just wide left, barely. I remember he kind of chasing me up the locker room a little bit and kind of asking me up in there, what the heck happened right there. But I also, to kind of make your point, when we laugh about it now, we laughed about it a little bit after a few weeks later, but even at the time, as a young head coach, you feel a little insecure. You're trying to prove yourself. That's going to be in Philly. That was going to be a major point of criticism. I mean, talk about making fun of us and really making fun of you as a head coach. But you didn't flinch then either. Even the post game, you said, "Hey, things happen. We got to do better with that, and we're moving forward." I can't remember what you said exactly, but it was totally positive. And I tell you, I'll never forget that lesson as a head coach now.
Norm was still over at the net kicking him, and I looked over and I'm going, "Oh no, we have a little problem here."
We got a little issue here.
I told Doug he should have just drop kicked it. He would have been famous for it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So amazing, and just all good stories and relationships. You think about the relationship part of it, like with players, and kind of what you're talking about. I watched you closely, so, and you never really, you never really like were a big theory guy. You were detailed, so you'd go through every offseason, you go through the points. And you might have 50 points for the coaches. These are the things you keep in mind. And I heard them every year for 9 years, and you added some, you took some out, kind of based on where we were at, but you always are making the point. One of the things was you You don't coach over a coordinator. You don't coach over the head coach. Just a little detail, things along those lines. Um, one thing I noticed, you never ever lost your cool on the field with players, but you still had a real tight ship. The old you ran a tight ship with a loose hand kind of, or maybe it was a loose ship with a tight hand. Whatever that saying is, I don't know what it
Yeah.
is, but you had the ability to have you had your control of everything, and you had a tight, firm rein on everything. Yet it was fun. It was loose. It was relaxed. I think back then, you maybe not remember this story, but think back to To, and you have a great relationship with To to this day, and all the things. But what a great competitor! But I do remember the very first OTA practice when he was with us. We come on the field, everybody's excited, and he comes out and he's wearing a jersey with the shells, and he's got tights on. He's got no shorts on, and I'm like, okay, well, we don't normally wear tights. I know To likes to wear tights, but we normally have shorts over the tights. And I think you told Coach Cully, you said, hey, go over there and let him know we're going to wear shorts. And he went in and got his shorts on, no big deal. So it wasn't like a go get your shorts on kind of a moment. But then later in the practice, we had maybe it might have been a couple practices later, we had a 10-10-10 practice, which was 10 offense, 10 defense, 10 offense, 10 defense. Gave me a couple special teams minutes, 10 offense, 10 defense, right? And you wanted the guys not in shells. You wanted them not to have shells on because you didn't want it to be physical. You just wanted it to be assignment oriented, and technique oriented. But he wanted his shell on to protect himself. So he goes in the huddle. He's the only guy with his shells on. And I'm watching. I'm like, okay. And, my reaction would have been to go tell him to, take the shells off or to let him have the shells. But that would have been a problem. I saw you said something to Greg Lewis. You might have said to Dave Kelly, you told Greg Lewis. I don't know how you did exactly, but Greg Lewis just went in. And he told T.O. he was in now. And so T came out. And he missed those 10 plays. Then the defense went. Comes back in with his shells again. Greg Lewis comes in again. You're out. I'm in. Comes out. And he's over there. I can see T.O. thinking about it. You never said anything. Third time, T.O. went in there. No shells. So you got your point across. And I've called it since then the non-confrontational confrontation. I never forgot it. Thought it was brilliant. And I've tried to remember it ever since. I mean,
Right.
Do you remember that?
I do vaguely. I do vaguely, but listen, T.O. was wired like a competitor, and you get guys in this business, you get guys from other teams that they're allowed to do certain things, and they've been great. They've been great players. And so you don't want to ruin, there's a fine line between ruining their mojo of thinking that if I wear tights, I'm going to be great, to getting done what you need to get done. And so if you can teach them that there's two ways to skin a cat, or however that saying goes. So if you can teach them that, then I think you can stay away from the confrontation part a little bit more. Although, I mean, listen, every once in a while you run into where there's a confrontation, but it's been far and few between on those type of things. So I've been fortunate that way.
One thing that we talk about here, and I think I got this from you and kind of coined a way of looking at it, but we say we confront everything, but not anybody. So it kind of goes back to the detail idea. Like every detail, every toe turn in or out, or every step, or where your eyes are going to be, or protecting the football or situational football. Every detail we're going to confront it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to deal with it. And we're going to get as good at it as we possibly can. But we're never going to confront anybody. And it does go back. Really, the coach is responsible for that. Now, sometimes the player will confront back, but if you kind of keep it in perspective and you set the perspective that we're confronting the football here, and that's what we're here for. I feel like that's what you've kind of done. You've made it about those details and those winning football related things.
Right. Yeah. And the older you get, and probably the more wins you get, then they believe it a little bit more.
Right.
When it's early and you're coming in, they're a little bit kind of looking at you cross-eyed. Yeah. But once you start winning, then they'll basically, guys will kind of do anything. I don't think anybody likes being confronted though, right, in a one-on-one, especially in this world right here that we're in. And I'm saying in the football world here that these are proud guys, man. They want to do everything they possibly can to be the best they can be. and you want to try to give them everything that they need to be the best they can be. So, but it's something where they have to stand up for themselves, and that they at times, and whether it's during a game or not. So I try to stay away from those one-on-one things unless I get them one-on-one, either on the side, away from the guys, or in my office to discuss the tougher things. The other good one is you can give them a positive and a negative. So you're at the end of practice and you see a guy wearing the wrong shoes or whatever. You know, if we went through that whole phase where we had to have the certain shoe, the right color, they would get. So you bring them up and you talk to the team and you go, hey, make sure we got the right shoes on, and up. And then you call the guy up to break the team down that has the wrong shoes on.
Right. Yeah.
And
I've done that too. That's a great.
And you go, hey, nice shoes. And then you walk out of the thing. And then it gets a point across, but it gives them a positive, and it doesn't embarrass them in front of the guys. They get to break the team down. So it's a sweet and sour pork part of it. You know?
that's a brilliant deal. Brilliant deal. You know, sometimes too, I think about situations like that where, you know, guys will come out and, you know, hey, receivers, you know, we've had, you know, I need more passes thrown my way. They're not utilizing me, or, you know, publicly make a statement. And the ability as a head coach at this level to diffuse it, if that's the word you want to use, and also to swing it back around to the positive, in the sense that, yeah, of course he wants more balls. Of course he wants to play more. Of course he wants to win. He wants to win. That's his contribution, a way of doing it, rather than looking at the negative aspect of that, but then making the point to him kind of that, you know, through that, you know, we do need to do it. You know, how are we looking at this really, I guess, but you've always been really great at that part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, the guys want to show, they want to get out there and show. And so I think the important part is during the install to have enough stuff in for them initially, and then to teach them that, listen, the ball's not always going to come your way. Even if we dial up your number, it might not come your way depending on the coverage. And so just hang with it. Somewhere it'll kick in and go. Don't blame the quarterback. Don't blame the play caller. Just keep playing. And eventually it comes to you. So we've been lucky to have the right guys in those spots. I mean, I've had the receivers. You just signed one that's the most unselfish big time receiver around, with Sammy Watkins. I mean, he just wanted to win and didn't care about how many catches and everything, you know, he was getting. Deshaun Jackson, T.O. I mean, these are guys. I've got Tyreek Hill now. I mean, these guys they just want to go. They just want to play, and they want success within the play. They jump on each other when the other guy catches the ball. They're checking their ego at the door, and they're playing for the team, which ends up being important in our game. You start getting into all the individual stuff, and it ends up being a real issue, you know.
When they're talking to Sammy, you know, we were talking here when he visited, and you know, we talked about you, of course, and he loves you. And he says, I said, well, you know, what was it like with Coach Reid? He said, well, I'll just tell you this. He said, just had a way of saying the right thing to me. He said, you know, we got each other, you know, and I feel like all the players that you had, I think 99% of the players would say the same thing. He said, yeah, one time he goes, he just told me, he said, hey man, he said, you're great. You're great. Get out of your own head and be great. You know, it's just a simple statement like that. He remembered that, and it made all the difference for him.
Yeah. I mean, he is. He is. He's, and that's the way all these guys are. I mean, they're kids. They're young men that when you get that have been blessed with this athletic ability, and then have exploited that,
right,
and worked their tail off to be the best in the world. I mean, there's only 32 Sammys in the whole world. I mean, doing that job at that position. And so you've got to, you know, you respect that part. Mm-hmm. There's an old book called Whale Done, a Blanchard, I think, book. And he talks about literally a whale done. He goes to, he's a CEO of this corporation. The corporation is completely failing. I mean, it's bombing out. And he takes a vacation with his family. They go to SeaWorld, and Shamu, this little trainer, has got this big whale doing all these different tricks with a whistle. And he's saying to himself, man, I can't get somebody to empty the garbage or that nobody's listening to me. It's terrible. So he waits around. He sends his family on. He waits around, and he goes and meets the trainer. And he says, how do you get this whale to do this? He says, I respect the whale. I respect the whale knowing that he could eat me at any time, literally. And that whale in return respects me back. And we've developed this relationship. He says, I would just ask you, do you do that with your employees? I mean, do you respect the guy that's emptying the garbage? Do you respect the guy that you respect him like you might somebody, if somebody were over you? Do you respect that person that's emptying the garbage like that person that might be over you? And he goes, no, not really. I mean, I'm just trying to get the job. So the guy went back and a true story. I mean, the guy went back and he started treating people like with respect. And then the business took off and went back to the top. So a great lesson learned, but also one that's easy to apply with our players. Are you actually listening to the player? And do you take them as individuals? Do you understand that they're young men that are trying to figure things out? And whatever their background is, a lot of the guys we deal with, there's not a male influence in their life other than their coaches. So do you respect that part of it? Do you take pride in that and respect that part of it? So those are all important things. And you do a great job of that too. So, I mean, we're blessed to be in that business, to have that opportunity, I think.
It's an interesting, you just made me think of a biblical verse. I don't have the exact citing of it, but I think it's Paul in one of his letters says that we are to treat others as if they're better than us. You treat everybody as if they're better than you. So you look at somebody and you say to yourself, that person's better than me. Kind of what you said. Look at that person. If he was your boss, how would this interaction be going? I think that's kind of the exact message right there. And things tend to go well in relationships when you do that, from when you're a leader in a leadership position, kind of that service leader kind of an idea.
Well, think of you as a coach. You hire guys. You don't want to hire guys that you don't think can be as good or better than you. Right. I mean, you're looking at it kind of through your eyes. And if you're real with it and you're not somebody that wants everybody to bow down to you, that's the way you go about it. And I want to hire guys that have a chance to be as good or better than I am and have an opportunity to go on and grow as much as they can grow. And so it's a little bit of that same thinking as you get into it. I mean, and we do that every day, right? I mean, we're looking at that every day, trying to help our guys be even better than what we are. We do it as parents, right? You do that as parents.
So
we don't all have, that great lacrosse player. I mean, we don't all have that. Huh? Yeah. Romping that Notre Damer, man. Doggone.
Well, I mean, I've seen you when the kids are growing up, and that was a blessing, and on the sideline and all the amazing things that you and Tammy, do together from a family standpoint, which kind of brings me to this, for parents, parents who've got kids in youth sports, and for coaches or coach those parents. Sometimes you're coaching your own kid and all the other kids, or you're coaching 9-year-old girls in lacrosse or basketball, whatever it is, it's like, what do you look for as a parent and a coach, and really as a youth coach coaching kids? What's the mindset that you'd like to see or that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think the ability to teach, and then and not it's not all about making to teach humbly. So not all about putting the kid down or playing mind games with them, but let them see how great the sport is. Let them see that part, and he might not. Very few kids have a chance to become a pro. Very few kids have a chance to be that starter in high school. And so, but don't judge them on that. Just let them see the good part of the game. That kid that might not start in high school might be the general manager of a team down the road. I mean, or he might be doing heart surgery on you. So let them have a positive experience with the game, and then as a coach, study so that you can give them something to help make them better. I mean, that's what I looked at with my kids, or for my kids, when they were going through sports.
And what do you think it is about football? I mean, football is a unique sport. We talk about football matters, and what is it about football, that has value and, comes under attack, and we're working on the concussion issue. And I think we're getting better at the injuries and we changed the rules. But man, there's, nothing like a young person that, for the rest of their life. And there's girls playing football now to even tackle football in
Sure.
college,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so cool. But the unique parts of football, how tough it is, and the courage and the challenges, and it's hard. It's not always fun, in a roller coaster kind of way. It's a fun and a gratifying kind of way. But I never really. Matt Burke told me this. He said, have you ever talked to a former high school football player that says they regret they played football? They're sorry they're a football player. Never. It's always, I was a football player. Hey, coach, I
Yeah.
played football. What is it about this sport that makes it so good for young
Well,
men?
I think it takes you, Harbs, to a place that you normally don't go. So there are points back in training camps. Everybody has these training camps, whether it's 2-a-days like the old days, or even now. I mean, they're tough, man. You go into a place, you have to reach down into a place that you normally don't go. And there's a certain pride and strength and presence and personality that show through that. And so whether it's this or wrestling, it's those things where it's the mental and the physical coming together like a train wreck. And you're fighting, man. And you're down in there in that no man's zone where you just don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you push through and you conquer it. And you go, man, how great was that? Even though you were hating the moment,
Right.
you overcame it and made it through. And so it makes it's a unique thing. And that could happen, you get tested on that during games. You might be on a long drive of 18 to 20 plays and you're miserable, but you fight through and you have that confidence that, I reached down deep during camp. I can reach down there again and I'm gonna function better than that guy that maybe hasn't had to go quite as deep as I had to go.
Mm-hmm.
I know they all went deep, but maybe not that deep. So it gives you that confidence.
You know, my dad, when we talk about coaching, his coach, Dwight Perry, his college coach at Bowling Green State University, told him this when he told me he thought about coaching. The things that are important. He said the number one most important thing to being a successful coach was to marry wisely. I know you married wisely with Tammy. What do you say to that?
Well, you better be a good recruiter if you're going to be a coach, first of all, right? And so my dad had a classic line. So my dad, Tammy Garrett was her name. She flies out. My parents knew I had been dating her. She flies out to LA to meet my family. So my dad and I go pick her up. My dad gives her a big hug and a kiss. I'm going, Dad, I'm saying to myself, Dad, you don't even know this girl. But he had this feeling. He could tell, right?
Yeah.
He could tell from us. The dads know, they know. So she stays for a couple of days and leaves. And then, I mean, I'm a young guy. I'm in college, senior in college. And so my dad goes, you gonna marry that girl? And I go, geez, Dad, I mean, just came out to meet you. I mean, he said, I'm going, I don't know. I'm moonwalking like a son of a gun. I'm Michael Jackson, man. I'm putting him to shame right now. So I'm moonwalking. My dad says, he grabs me, he goes, hey, you looked in the mirror recently? And I go, oh, okay. I got you. I got you. So, but that's the truth. You and I, Ingrid, Tammy, I mean, they're great head coaches' wives. We're lucky to have them. They're our backbone. I keep calling her my girlfriend because when she's your girlfriend, you write her all kinds of nice little notes and buy her candies and all that. So I've tried to keep that going. She's had 5 kids. It's completely ruined my body. I don't know what happened. So, I mean, I've gone through this. You grow together, I guess, right? She's got twice the man she had when she married. That's what I tell her.
I told Ingrid this morning because sometimes she gets annoyed at me because now we're in the off season, and I'm home a little more. And I told her, I said, I'm kind of attached to you, and she goes, yeah, I noticed. I noticed. So they got to be independent too. But so and then the last thing here, faith. I mean, you talk about it a little bit and you live it a lot. The impact that your faith has had on really as a man and a father and a coach and a husband and everything.
Yeah. So I was blessed to go to BYU. I wasn't a member of the church at that time. I ended up joining before my senior year. I met Tam, but that was part of it. I mean, that was part of it. But I saw football players join the church that met with met their girl, and then it didn't work. They fell apart. I said, I don't want to do that. I mean, if I'm join the church, I'm gonna make sure I study and do it the right way. So I waited and we separated. She went home for summer and I went back to LA, and I did the discussions there. That we have these discussions that the missionaries do. So I did the discussions there, and one thing led to another, and I joined the church. So and then it's a way both you and I live our lives according to our church. It's not something that we just go, okay, on Sunday we're going to church. Okay, Sunday's part of it, but but we live our life that way. And so the church gives us great guide. Our churches, we're in separate church, but our churches give us certain guidelines. So we can return to our Heavenly Father again, right? And so I try to follow those and hang tight with that. Yeah, I don't go around preaching about it. I try to live it, and that's how I go. And and it's been a great guideline for me as a father, as a coach. I mean, we're taught, we're here to teach. Well, that falls right in line with what we believe in as coaches too. So, it's been tremendous that way. Yeah.
Coach Reid, Andy, you're going to go down in history as one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game, but even a better person. And thanks for what you've done in my life and all the rest of us who had a chance to play or coach for you. And all the people now that you're impacting through this time, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate you, man. I mean, you're the best, and I appreciate you even having me on this. I mean, that's quite an honor. Thank you.
Visit harbaughcoachingacademy.org.